All right, good day. For this session, we'll be talking about memory management algorithms. So, the prerequisite for the study of memory management is process scheduling. We talked about process scheduling in the previous uh, module, and we discussed the different algorithms and its advantages and disadvantages. Now, memory management is another important and major function of the operating system. Its main goal is to ensure that the processes that will be executed have sufficient memory space. So apart from the time element, which is where the process scheduling comes in, and the next would be the space, because both of them are we need to define them. Now, some of the terms we have monoprogramming. Okay, so when we say monoprogramming, it's where a process can be executed in the memory, okay, but only one process can use the memory at a given time. So that's monoprogramming. Right? We'll discuss the details further. No? But in memory management, it's always the RAM. It's always the memory that we're talking about, and the part of the application that is running in the memory. Okay. Um, Next is MFT, or multi-programming with fixed tasks, wherein the memory is divided into a fixed number of partitions in which each partitions can handle one process. So this is already predetermined, right? And we have multi-programming with variable tasks, or MVT. So in this case, every process, regardless of the size, okay, as long as it can fit, can reside in the memory. So there is no direct division here of our partitions. Compaction. No? So when we talk about compaction, it's the ability to compress the used spaces in one space, um, to sum up the unused spaces and allocate it to more processes. So it's like um, zip, no? And you use your zip file, your WinZip 7 zip. So you try to compress the files, right? And then we have fragmentation. It is the unused space in the memory which can be found in a partition or the memory in general that can no longer be used by a process. So we also hear this when you use your fragmentation tool. And then there are two types. The first is internal fragmentation, which is your unused space within a partition, and we call it IF. And next is the EF, which is the unused space in the RAM that cannot be used because the process cannot fit in the memory. Okay, so these are the terms. All right. So similar to process scheduling, we go to the requirements. Okay, so by default, for class purposes, you are required to show the following in all our algorithms that will be discussed. So if you are given MFT, show all the relevant milestones. Okay, which we define here now. So a milestone contains the RAM contents when a process either enters or leaves the memory. So every time there's a process that enters or leaves the memory, that is a milestone. Okay. So if you're given MFT, or multi-programming with fixed tasks, you show all the relevant milestones 80%, show the internal fragmentation and external fragmentation 20% for all the milestones. If you are given an MVT, show all the relevant milestones, which is 80%, and show the external fragmentations 20%. Okay, so these are the requirements. Of course, for monoprogramming, it's very easy. So you also show the milestone, but um, you just have to put one process at a time. But I'm not sure if we will have that example. Now, for the process table, example process table is this. So we have four processes, okay, which will be used for all algorithms for simulation. We have the um, P1, P2, P3, P4 with arrival, its corresponding arrival and burst time. Now, for memory management, there is already a memory requirement here. So it will be shown. It is shown here. Okay, 170, 90, and 200. Okay, so again, the sigma BT or summation BT is always the same regardless of the algorithm used. Now, let's go to approaches in memory management. So, the first is monoprogramming. Now, so when we talk about monoprogramming, again, it is the oldest approach to memory management because only one process can execute in the RAM at a given time, regardless of the size. So the advantage, basically, it's simple to implement. Just get the process, put it in the memory, wait for it to finish, and then get the next process, etc. The disadvantage, basically, it's not maximized. The memory is not maximized. So if I have um, the application is just, or the process is just um, 100 MB and your RAM is 1 gig, then obviously it's not maximized because you still have 900 MB that can be allocated to some other process. All right. So it says here, even if the 10% of the space is used, no other process can can reside in the RAM until P1 is finished. Right. So next we go to MFT. No? So MFT divides the RAM into partitions. Okay, so it's defined. There are predictable and constant maximum number of processes that can reside in the RAM. So when we say predictable and constant, meaning if the memory is divided into five, obviously you have the operating system that will use the first partition, and then the rest, okay, we have four that can be used by four processes. Okay, so that's what it means. So it's predictable and constant. The advantage, it's relatively simple to implement and processes are controlled. The disadvantage is that the memory is still not maximized because there is internal fragmentation. Okay, now there are three algorithms here in MFT. So the first fit, best fit, and worst fit. So when we say the first fit, it looks for the first partition that the process can fit. So it will traverse the memory partitions and it will look for the first one that will fit. The second is the best fit, which traverses the entire RAM and looks for the partition that will yield the lowest internal fragmentation. Okay, so that's the best fit. And then the third is the worst fit. So it traverses the entire RAM and looks for the partition that will yield with the largest internal fragmentation. Okay, so let's see. So sample specs, you have a total of 500 KB um, memory, okay, with four partitions, with the first partition allocated for the operating system, and the rest would be for processes. We have 100 for partition 2, 100 for partition 3, and then 200 for partition 4. Okay, so let's start now. Okay, following the um, process table. So at time 0, you have P1. P1 enters the ready queue. It's then um, accommodated and um, put in the memory. So if it's the first fit or best fit, okay, it will look for the. So let's simulate both. So first fit, okay, the first one is the memory requirement is 100. So the first one is obviously will be used for P1. For best fit, it will traverse the entire RAM and then will allocate the one with the least internal fragmentation. So in this case, okay, it's the second partition. So 101 to 200. So IF, internal fragmentation is 0. Nothing is um, nothing is wasted. No? Okay, external fragmentation is also 0. Okay, now let's go to um, time 2. So at time 2, P1 is still executing, right? And then P2 arrives. P2 has a requirement of 70. So again, first fit or best fit. Okay, so let's do first fit first. So first um, partition that will yield um, the lowest internal fragmentation. So that's the third partition, 201 to 300. Okay, and when you do the best fit, same. No, so it will choose the third partition, right? So that's going to be P2. So afterwards, we compute for the internal fragmentation. So here the internal fragmentation is 30. Why 30? Because you still have 30 KB um, in the third partition that is free, but we cannot use it anymore because it's allocated to P2. All right. Now let's go to time 3. At time 3, you have uh, P3 okay, going in. Now, now the requirement for time 3 I think is uh, so we have 100. Is it 120, 110? 110? Yeah, I think 110. So 110. Okay, so obviously that we will allocate the last partition for P3 for both first fit and best fit because that's the only partition left now. Again, the requirement for P3 is um, 90, no, so 90, sorry, so 90. So you have an internal fragmentation of 110 because the last partition has a memory space of 200. So 200 minus 90 is 110 plus the internal fragmentation of P2, which is 30, then 110 plus 30 is 140. External fragmentation is 0. Right? Now, let's go to time 4. No? So at time 4, we have P1 exiting the memory. So it's done. Okay? So at time 4, P1 is done. Okay, so we now free up the first partition. Okay, so again, it's still a milestone because it's leaving the memory. So here, at time P4, P1 exits the memory. And then next, okay, at time 5, okay, P2 exits the memory. So so not only P2 but also P3. Okay, and then P4 goes in the memory. So here P4 has a memory requirement of 200. That's why if you would notice here, the internal fragmentation is 0. Okay, and then at time 6, no more processes in the queue. Okay, so what we want to see here would be the distribution of internal fragmentation and external fragmentation. And here you will see um, we have 140. The peak is 140. The lowest is 0. Okay. Now, one of the important reminders here or important note is that in the example provided, the first fit and the best fit algorithms yield with the same result. But that is not always the case. So if the fourth partition, for example, which is 200, is placed at the topmost in the second partition, for example, okay, it will be the worst fit because it will it will allocate the largest to whatever process comes in for. Like for example, if it's really small, P1 is very small, and then you use first fit, then it will act like a first fit then, right? So that's why it says here the first fit can also act like worst fit when the big chunks of memory are found first and the process is very small, right? Or needs a small amount of memory. All right. Now let's simulate worst fit. No? So worst fit. Okay. So at time zero again, P1 arrives in the ready queue. Okay, and then will be placed in the memory, executed. Okay, you have an internal fragmentation of 100. Okay, because in worst fit it traverses the RAM and will choose the one with the highest internal fragmentation. Time 2 will allocate P2 to the second partition. So again 70. The requirement is 70 KB. You still have 30. So the internal fragmentation is 130. And then at time 3, okay, all of them are um, in the memory. So here you have internal fragmentation of 140, right? So you allocate P3 here um, with a memory requirement of 90. So you have an internal fragmentation of 10, okay, in the third partition, okay, for P3. Okay, and then again at time 4, okay, time 4 P1 will exit the memory, right? So the fourth partition will be clear, um, and can be reused again. Then at time 5, P4 will come in. Obviously, that's the only one that can be used that will satisfy the requirement. So P4 will go to the fourth partition. Okay. And P2 and P3 will exit the memory. Okay, so the internal fragmentation here is 0 because there's no waste. And then at time 6, P4 will exit and the RAM will be clear. All right. So you would see the peak. So here it's still 140, but in the early the peak of the internal fragmentation is still 140, but in the early part it has a high internal fragmentation already because you're using worst fit. So that's the intention of the worst fit. Okay, so that's MFT with the different algorithms. Now let's go to MVT, okay, or multi-programming with variable task. So MVT description, it allows n number of process, okay, to simultaneously reside in the memory as long as the sum of the memory requirements can fit. Okay. So there is no partition, okay, there, except we provide a space for the operating system. But for the others, up to you. So, which is good. The advantage here is that the memory is optimized and saves time. Okay, and the disadvantage just include it is more complex in implementation. Again, because there is no equal division or there is no predictable number of partitions, and there is still external fragmentation. Now, there are two algorithms under MVT. The first one is with compaction. It means when a process goes out of the memory, all other residing processes compress themselves together. So you push all the processes up or down, depends on the instruction, but usually you push it up, okay, to clear the space. Without compaction, when a process goes out of the memory, the other process don't compress. So, okay, so there will be spaces in between some of the processes if the middle process um, gets finished first. All right. So sample specs, this will be given to you. So you have your partition 1 for the operating system. Okay, so you have 100 KB and then your free space, which is 400 KB. So the total is 500. Okay. Now, let's go with compaction. So using the same process table, okay, so we have process 1 entering at time 0. So you have um, P1, okay, so 100. So from 101 to 200 is allocated to P1. And the rest, free space. Free space. And then at time 2, you have P2. No? So you have 101 to 270. So 70 is the requirement. Okay. Now at time 3, you have your P3. Okay. So the order would look like this. Right. So you have um, I think 90. That I think that it has a memory requirement of 90. P3 has a memory requirement of 90. So you would see that it's optimized, right? So all of the requirements, memory requirements are addressed, and all the free spaces are um, placed at the bottom part. Now at T4, P1 leaves the memory. So with compaction, after P1 leaves the memory, P2 and P3 is um, pushed up to free the other spaces. The free space will be available at the bottom part of the memory. So that's how the compaction works. Okay, so when P1 exits the memory, the process automatically compress to combine all the use and free space. So you would see, okay, and then at T5, P4 will enter again 200. Okay, that's a requirement. Okay, but at this point, P2 and P3 also exit the memory. So it's P4 that comes in and um, is placed in the operating system. So P2 and P3 exit the memory, and P4 uses the first free space provided, right? Allocating 200 also. Okay, and last is T6. So T6, last milestone because P4 exits the memory. So that is um, with compaction. Now, let's go to without compaction. So this is a bit tricky because, okay, um, you do not compress. So at time 0, P1 will go in. Okay, requirement is 100. Okay, and then time 2, P2 will come in with a requirement of 70. And then at T3, P3 will come in with a requirement of 90. Now at time 4, P1 will exit the memory. But because there is no compaction, it will remain there, no? So, okay. So, when P1 exits the memory, the space used by P1 remains free, but no compaction occurred. Um, So, when there is now a requirement, let's say, um, so in this case, there won't be any problem because P4 will enter at T5, right? So at T5, P2 and P3 will exit, right? And P4 um, will enter with a requirement of 200. But look at this. If that happened, if P4 enters at T5 but P2 and P3 are still there, then P4 will have to wait, right? So there will be what we call external fragmentation. But here in this example, there's none. No? So there, and then at time 6, P4 exits the memory. Okay, so it's clear and you have free space. Okay, so what are the caveats here? That the end time will differ from algorithm to algorithm, right? So here it's possible that the burst time will remain the same for the same process table, but if you're using worst fit, for example, and there's no space, then it will have to wait until the memory has an available space to accommodate that process. So that adds up to to the the formula. And then next is always look at the arrival time or AT in determining the next process to execute. If there are multiple processes ready for the execution, choose the one with the least AT, meaning the one that arrived first. If the process with the smallest AT cannot fit in the memory, let other process execute first. So there is the give and take, no? But obviously the criteria would be which one the one that came first. So we're doing like a first come first serve here, right? Third is always allocate the topmost part of the memory to the operating system. Okay. And then next is always prioritize processes that go out of the memory than those going in. Okay, so let the process go in first, go out first, leave the memory so you can free the space, and then that's the time you let the other process enter. And then always show the last milestone when memory only contains the operating system. Okay, you are not required to show the snapshot of the memory when there's an external fragmentation. Only show milestones when a process enters or leaves the memory. So it may happen that there is external fragmentation when the current process cannot enter or cannot enter the memory because there is no sufficient space. Then you will have to wait. It's okay, you don't need to show that. No? If the memory requirement of the process is greater than the memory, obviously it cannot be executed for this um, module. And if the free space, okay, the free space when a process goes out of the memory in MVT is totally free space. It is not an internal fragmentation. So meaning, like a while ago um, in the example without compaction, when P1 left the memory, there is a free space there. It's not an internal fragmentation. It's a free space. So meaning if there's another process entering the memory can fit that free space, then good. If there's an excess space, it's still not an internal fragmentation because it's not a partition. All right. So yeah, this sums up the different approaches to memory management. So we discussed three. We have mono programming, we have multi-programming with fixed tasks with three variations. You have your first fit, best fit, and worst fit. And then we have multi-programming with variable tasks and with variations such as with compaction and without compaction. So for the references, here are some of the references that I've used. Particularly, the best would be the Silver Scotch. This is the like the godfather of operating systems, and I think they are updating it from one edition to another. And of course, the operating system discussion materials from Rutgers, very helpful for the discussion. Okay, and then Anshul Agarwal's YouTube channel is also helpful. Okay, I'm not sure if they have I updated some of the contents, but yeah, the ones in operating system are very helpful. All right, so that sums up our discussion on memory management algorithms. So thank you for listening, and see you in the next module. Thank you.